Yeah, I want to provide some insight into a couple of things because I know a lot of people on YouTube don't. And actually, I don't think there's a lot of people that know stuff that I know, but I don't think too many of these people actually are on YouTube saying the stuff I say. Because a lot of times there's people out there on YouTube that are just drama freaks. You know, the sky's falling and the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and the elitists and the banksters. That's all I talk about. A bunch of bullshit. Anyway, you know, first off, I want to talk about a financial angle of the, say, a great collapse of the United States financially, because, you know, people figure that's coming up now, you know, and, you know, a lot of people, like, you know, I picked up on that thing with the 1.6 billion rounds that the Department of Homeland Security got, you know, and actually, I think the guys that are in the Department of Homeland Security, they're probably going to get betrayed and shafted. But I'll get into that in a minute, in a couple minutes anyway. But first, you know, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, sidetrack you a little bit about Cyprus and the Russians that do business in there. You know, I didn't realize, you know, some of that stuff was going to be on the internet because I knew about it, but I didn't know about it from the internet. Actually, Cyprus, I said Cyprus is a tax haven, like the corporate tax is 10%, and in Europe, I forgot what it is. It's like 20-something%. It's a hell of a lot higher, and there's no capital gains tax, so that works pretty good when you got like commodities and, you know, jet fuel and isotopes and whatever the hell else you're trading out there. No problem there. And holding companies aren't subject to any dividend income tax either. Dividend income tax. So, and in the British Virgin Islands, it's even better than that. So, like in the UK, the big guys, you know, use the BVI. There's no corporate income tax. And zero, man. I don't want to get into these kind of details, but anyway. I wish I could do that shit, but I can't, you know. Anyway. I could be a preacher. Lindsey Williams. Anyway. Everything's it's for charity. Just give me money. Anyway, bunch of bullshit. That's why I don't like those guys. I actually have more respect for the crooks than I do the preachers in a lot of ways. But, you know, I want to point out something like this. Just use a lot of common sense. Common sense goes a long way. You know, say there's this collapse, you know, people are talking about, yeah, there's a collapse coming up, and that's why they're going to have the Department of Homeland Security all armed really well, because, and don't fight those guys, I'm going to tell you that right now, don't do that shit. I mean, yeah, I guess you can fight to save your own ass if you're going to be really fucked up, but don't try to fight them, you know, because they're Americans and stuff, but, you know, say for instance there's this big collapse and a lot of people are fearful that, you know, the government's getting ready to, you know, have everything set for, can be carted off to the gulag or some shit. But what I think's going to happen, see if there's a collapse and all the banks are screwed up or something, right? And you can't get money out of it. Say it's like Cyprus. You know, only thing you can use your ATM machine and your cash or whatever the hell it is. Well, in that situation, you know, what would happen with all the people that the elitists are paying to control everything, like the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, or what? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Say there are the people that the elitists are using to control everybody, right? Just assume that's the case. How are they going to pay them? If there's a banking crisis, if all this stuff is going on, how are those people that work for these departments going to take care of their family? You know, how's that going to work? You know what I think is going to happen if the U.S. dollar collapses, or say it gets greatly diminished. I don't think it's going to collapse. I think they're going to have another world reserve currency. There's probably something in the works. It's going to be a combination or a basket of currencies or something like that. And that would, in other words, the payment to the people that are in DHS and stuff might start going to other people, basically. In other words, they can pull in foreigners that way real easy. That's what I would think would happen. And it's almost like that stupid, corny movie Red Dawn, but not that extreme. But, it probably would be something like that. I would think financially, if the American people got screwed up due to a dollar collapse and a banking crisis, I mean, what would happen to all the, enforcement agencies in the United States? They'd all be affected by that, and their families would be affected by that. So how would the elite gain control of the population in the United States, assuming we're going to conspiracy 101 here? I would assume they'd have to use a different type of currency, some type of global currency that came from the United Nations or the IMF or some crap like that, some peacekeeping organization, and it would actually be payment to people who are not from the United States originally. That would be the peacekeepers here. That's what I think would happen. So, this is the moral of the story here. And I know people, I don't like decentralized police control either and all that stuff, right? I think that's bad medicine. It's like an anti-American principle, basically. We have local police, and maybe we got some corrupt cops here and there, but, if it's local, you can figure out who the hell it is and, fix it possibly, some way or another. You always got more recourse. When you have centralized control, it's more screwed up. It's always been that way. We know this. But I think, Americans should be very wary of going too much against like FEMA, DHS, and all these alphabet soup agencies because, see, they're still Americans too. I mean, there might be some screwed up people in there, but there's always screwed up people everywhere. I mean, no matter what you do. But I think they're going to get betrayed. I think the people working in FEMA, it might be still called FEMA, it might be still called the DHS, but I bet you they bring in foreign people and they pay them with a New World Reserve currency versus the US dollar. And people that work for the DHS and people work for FEMA and people work for all these other agencies, the FBI, the CIA, if they got money in the American banking system in the form of US dollars, they're probably all going to get screwed pretty bad. I mean, maybe it's not going to go to zero, but they're going to be affected the same exact way. All the average Americans are affected, assuming this all happens. So, if you think it out, if America's going to pretty much see a major decline in the US dollar, I'll put it that way, not a collapse, let's say a major decline in the US dollar and a major decline in the standard of living, and there's going to be problems with bank holidays and all this type of stuff, then all the people that work in these alphabet soup agencies, the FBI, the CIA, everybody's like, all over YouTube with this, conspiracies and, the FEMA and DHS and all that, they're all going to get screwed too. And I think if there actually is going to be some way that these agencies are going to be used against the American people by elitists, they're going to have to bring in people not born in the United States and pay them in a different type of currency other than the US dollar. So, so I would kind of urge people, stick with the Constitution, stick with the Bill of Rights. Don't be too much against, the people that work in these alphabet soup agencies. You know what I mean? Because I think they're going to get betrayed. And start figuring out. Figure it out. What do you think? How could this possibly work out? If the American people are affected by a drastic decline in the dollar and banking crisis, wouldn't every single person that works for all these alphabet soup agencies, whatever, would they all be affected and their families? Sure would be. So I think the elite are going to screw the Americans over that are actually working for these agencies too. So beware, beware. So as an average American, don't work against these guys. Just beware of, them. I mean, you can remind them of the Bill of Rights and stuff, and then we're all Americans and we all have individual rights and we all have civil rights and all that type of stuff, and we have a constitution, and the American way is not about centralized control. But, just beware. And I think at the last minute, I think these guys are going to get slammed too by the elitists on the top, and they're going to bring in foreigners to, bring in, to work FEMA, to work in peacekeeping troops, DHS if there's a serious economic collapse in the United States. And they're probably going to screw the guys that are actually in there right now. Shaft them and replace them. It's the only way it can actually work for the elite, right? Think about it. Right? Could very well be the case. So, just some food for thought. And I just figured I'd throw some other comments in there about Cyprus, because I think people are getting too much. Well, let me put it this way. The Russians got their money out of there, man. They didn't lose no money. They didn't lose no money. They probably were going to lose some money, but you notice when they all changed their votes and nobody voted to take the money, and everybody, 36 said no, and 19 abstained, and all those Russians came down around planes. Ain't none of those guys losing money. None of those guys. So, just want to point that out. But the guys that are actually, manning the oars on, rowing the ship or whatever the hell it is, and the DHS and the FEMA, I think these Americans are going to get betrayed by the elitists. I think they will. So, anyway, some food for thought.